All right. Welcome to the Fantasy Football Last Call podcast. My name is Joe Bond, founder of FantasySixPack.net. With me, back in action, in place of Jeff Lambert this week, is good friend Dave Eddy. What's up, man?
How's it going, Joe? Been a minute. I guess this is my second time maybe this year coming back.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, Jeff has a life. He can do other things sometimes.
Well, good for him.
He can abandon me, leave me with your mug. That's fine.
Yeah, that's
I
rough.
suppose.
That's rough.
All right, man. So it's another interesting Sunday. Lots of crazy upsets. It feels like every time somebody, looks like they're the team that we're all being like, all right, they're the guys. They're the ones that are gonna like run away with this. Then they lose to like the Jags or Houston. Like, what in the hell is happening? Nobody actually wants to win this year. I'm determined that is what's going on. I just have no idea. And we're going to start off right off the bat here with a game that is looking kind of like that. This team is going in the wrong direction. So go ahead, man. Get this started.
Well, I don't know. I almost feel like we should give a little more credit to the Colts here, man. Colts won 41-15. I don't think anyone saw that score coming. I do know that there was some definite talk about, the betting line taking the Colts this week. So I don't think anyone expected, a blowout. But, on the Colts side of things, Wentz didn't do a whole lot. I guess he didn't really have to. No. He had, 106 yards and a touchdown. And the reason he, only did so much is because Jonathan Taylor decided that he was playing Madden today. And so
Yeah.
he goes for 185, 4 touchdowns on the ground. And if that wasn't good enough for you, he also caught 3 balls for 19 yards and took another one in. So 5 touchdowns total, just over 200 yards. What I see today, this is his 8th straight game with 100 yards and a touchdown, which I believe tied LaDainian Tomlinson's record for consecutive games in a season. So nobody is hotter than JT right now.
Yeah, absolutely, man. This guy's a monster.
Yep. And then, Bills, obviously, just you can tell by the score, they didn't do a whole lot. So pretty disappointing there. Josh Allen basically threw for 200, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Knox a decent game, especially for a tight end, 6 for 80. And while Diggs only caught 4 balls for 23, he did get in the end zone twice. So he did kind of save his day there.
Yes,
but
he did.
I don't know, man. I guess what's your level of concern, with this, Bills offense? They just, got done destroying the Jets, and then we come back and, do this after they kind of did it against the Jags as well.
Yeah, man, it wasn't a pretty game, I'll be honest. Allen was very erratic, was missing open receivers. The 2 picks he threw were not good throws, and he almost had a third that, thankfully the Colts just didn't catch. And he looked bad against the Jags too. He is not what we saw last year. He's putting up he's got some games in him like that, but we're not getting, second overall quarterback drafted Josh Allen, numbers from him this season. And I think they've got to find a running game, man. Like I do think that's actually hurting them at this point. They just have 0 running game, and
they've had offensive line issues, and they had it again today. Which is, when that injury came down,
that's gonna matter.
That was one of the last kind of nails in the coffin for getting people betting on the Colts was the offensive line issues they have. So that takes away from everything. Offensive line. I know we're talking, fantasy here, but the reality is offensive line directly relates to all of that on offense.
Yeah.
So
that's a good call. I wasn't really thinking of that. Yeah. That obviously that plays a huge part in things, and it's just I still think they've got to get some sort of semblance of a running game going to really kind of ease the load of Allen and all the pressure that's put on him right now. Otherwise, I think they're going to continue. They're going to have more struggles like this going forward.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. So next game up was an ugly one to watch, and to be quite honest, there's not much to take away from here due to injuries and just guys missing the game. Ravens won 16-13 over the Bears. I mean, Hundley was admirable, but I mean, I'm highly doubting anyone had him rostered, before the game, or at least before the Lamar news. I mean, Andrews still was fine, 8 catches for 73 yards.
Yep.
Justin Fields, he got out early, getting hurt. So Dalton came in, put up 202. Again, nobody was starting Dalton, so who cares? Montgomery was a little bit disappointing. I know that with Lamar going out in the DFS world, that really bumped up Montgomery's value, kind of thinking that Bears might control the game, get him a lot of carries. Baltimore's run defense has been whatever. But it was Mooney that ended up having the game. He had 5 catches for 121 and a 60-yard touchdown. But all in all, with the quarterbacks missing the game, I'm not so sure that there's much to actually take away from it.
No, not really. This one's hard to analyze. It's just chalk it up to whatever because these aren't going to be the quarterbacks moving forward. Although we are going to have to wait for the Justin Fields news with the ribs. We don't know if they're broken or anything like that, so we could get more Dalton going forward, which I don't know. I don't know if that's good or bad at this point. I will say something funny about the Huntley news. This morning, I'm in a dynasty league. This morning, somebody picked up Tyler Huntley and had to start him because I guess his quarterbacks were Kyler. And then he decided to start him over Jimmy Garoppolo and Trevor Siemian, which was actually a huge mistake. But just so happened it was the guy that I'm playing. And my team, I'm almost like, did he just do this to troll me? Because my team is total garbage. It's in rebuild mode. So, like, I have nothing. And I've actually traded away, like, 2 of my best players to get picks because they're older and I need to rebuild from the ground up. And so I was like, did he just do that to start, like, one of the worst possible quarterbacks just to troll me because he knew his team was good enough to beat me without one? So, yeah, I don't know. I don't think that's actually what he did, but it's kind of funny nonetheless. So
yeah, kind of a dumb move not to start Jimmy G, but whatever.
I would have thought I guess the Jags really.
Yeah, that was a no-brainer. I mean, Jimmy G was talked about in DFS for God's sakes.
Although Siemian was the play, he had 30 points for him.
Well, but either way,
but it was all garbage time. So
yeah. But either way, man. So on to the game for maybe the battle for worst franchise in NFL history. Lions, thank God, lost 13-10 to the Browns. Absolute futility, basically on both sides of the ball. I mean, if you look at the box score, Swift looked like he had a pretty decent day. He had 14 carries, 136 yards and a touchdown. 57 of that yards came on, the touchdown run, which was actually a very nice run. But, it was nice to see Chubb actually get some run. He had 22 carries for 130, even with, Hunt out and going up against the Lions and presumably a really good game script. I would have still put money on, 15, 16 carries. And, so it was nice to see him kind of get the load there. But all in all, outside of that Swift run, this game was pretty disgusting. And, if you do own anyone outside of Swift that was in this game, I don't think that you are walking away from it, very happy or impressed.
I mean, yeah, it's basically Swift and Chubb were the only guys we were really interested in. I mean, Landry saved his day with that random 16-yard touchdown run, which I think was sort of like a busted play. Like,
it was.
It almost looked like he tried to throw the ball, and then he just the whole middle of the field opened up. Bye. Just ran right through everybody. And so, yeah, it's just bad. I mean, Jeff and I have talked about this for the past few weeks, and this Browns team is clearly going to be a run-first team. Mayfield's banged up, and it shows, man. And so, they're not trying to put a whole lot on his shoulders right now. And he's not going to, 30 attempts feels like the most he's had in a few weeks. I don't know the exact numbers right now, but I feel like he's going to hover around that low 20s range most weeks. We've been looking at 21, 21, 31, 28 the last few weeks. So he's not attempting the ball a lot, and they're not. If they get into a game where they're going to have to be in a they're going to be in trouble. I don't
maybe
think
they'll just throw Landry back there.
Yeah,
You
maybe.
know. Oh, all right. Well, let's get on to the big upset then. Maybe the upset of the year. Texans. And I don't even know if the game was.
I don't know
I mean,
which ones worse. Jacksonville beating the Bills, although at this point maybe
yeah,
not,
well,
or
I don't know. I mean,
the
the difference on this game, I think, was through three quarters, the Texans were whooping the Titans' ass, and the Titans made a game of it for sure. I mean, when you look at the score, 22-13, it doesn't seem that bad, but I don't think that it was that close. Um, with that being said, there wasn't a whole lot fantasy wise that came out of this, on the positive side of things. I mean, on the Texan side, I mean, it's nice to see, Tyrod in there just because at least he gives that offense, he gives Brandon Cook a better chance. He had 2 rushing touchdowns, so he's serviceable. Um, for the Titans, I mean, really the big news is, AJ Brown, hurt his shoulder, so add him
yeah.
to the list of carnage over there. But Tannehill -4 picks, which I know is a lot. I mean, he was all right. He had to throw the ball 52 times, so that got him up over 300 yards.
He threw a few of those interceptions were bad throws, man. Like he was forcing them in there. It wasn't a good game. I mean, this team clearly is not going to be the same without Henry, and they're going to be really hard to trust anybody outside of maybe a healthy AJ Brown. Because I mean, I think he still saw 9 targets, so unfortunately only caught like 4 of them. So I mean, he's gonna get targeted heavily. So I mean, he's gonna get the numbers, but he needs to be healthy. Who knows
Well, I
what's going
mean,
on?
the biggest lesson here, though, that I want to point out is, you know, situations a lot of times are what put players in positions to succeed and ultimately to do so. So, when you take last year, right? When you had, healthy AJ Brown, MVP caliber, Henry, all of, Tannehill was one of the best, fantasy quarterbacks, around and very underrated. Once you start stripping that away,
Of course.
all of a sudden, he doesn't look so well. Same thing though with Buffalo, Say, and you can go back to the Super Bowl with Kansas City too. You have a terrible offensive line, and all of a sudden that Chiefs offense looks terrible.
Yeah.
So just let it be a lesson that no matter how great all of these players are individually, it really is a team sport. And
Oh, of course.
when you get injuries, even that may not seem like they directly are going to affect people, it makes a world of difference. So that's maybe more of a DFS lesson than anything, because obviously in season long and stuff, you're kind of stuck with what you got. But
Yeah.
in DFS, whenever you can pick and choose and kind of do whatever you want to, you really need to keep that kind of stuff in mind.
Absolutely.
So speaking of people being healthy, man, and a lot of positives here. The Vikings went ahead and beat the Packers 34-31. And this was kind of a game where I think if you owed anyone in this game, you're probably pretty happy with how it went. I mean,
Yeah.
everyone did well. And I don't even know if it's worth just rattling through everyone because they were all great.
It's a
But
long list of guys.
yeah, it's a lot. I mean,
Put it this way, if you
Rodgers.
had exposure to this game, you did really well this week.
Yeah, Rodgers and Cousins each went over 300. Cousins with 3 touchdowns. Rodgers with 4.
Yep.
Adams caught 2 touchdowns. Jefferson caught 2 touchdowns. Had over 150 yards. Good day all around.
Say
I'm not
the only
sure.
mini disappointment was AJ Dillon, but I mean he still sort of salvaged a day because he caught 6 for 44. He just didn't get in the end zone.
I mean, he still had basically 120 yards all
Right. I'm
purpose.
just saying, like, but I mean a
Um,
mini disappointment just compared to everybody else. He just didn't score.
Yeah, he might have been the guy. I mean, outside of like Thielen, who even Thielen had a good day, but outside of Thielen, maybe didn't have a ceiling type game.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure there's a lot to take away from there, other than if like you said, if you had a lot of exposure there, you were happy.
I'll say
Um,
this: I'm actually surprised at how well the Vikings did because the Packers defense has been pretty legit this year. And so like we were talking before the show about how Jefferson was pretty low owned in DFS.
yeah.
Um, I was off of him this week. Like in my season long league, I obviously started him, but in DFS, I would have never touched him this week because the Packers have been shutting people down. And so, but Jefferson went off, and Cousins did too. Like I kind of thought this was going to be not, I wouldn't say lopsided, but I thought the Packers would win this one pretty easily.
Well, now I'm kind of curious what his GPP ownership was because the number I gave you was for cash lineups.
Right.
For GPP purposes, though, it was an easy stack with Adams. It was just very expensive, and this was a week where expensive wasn't so prohibitive just because you had a handful of cheap running backs.
Yeah.
Um, so real quick, Jefferson. Oh yeah, still really low, about 3%.
Yeah. I mean,
So
I'm
that's
telling you,
still
he
crazy low.
wasn't an obvious
Yeah,
play.
I thought it was going to be closer to
And that's
8 to 10%.
even with
Alexander out. Yeah.
yeah, Alexander's still out. So yeah,
Mhm.
it's they've really come around this year. So
All right, buddy. Next up, we had the Dolphins beating the Jets 24-17. I mean, the biggest takeaway for me here, and this is kind of a little shame on me for not having more exposure to him, was Elijah Moore. I mean, again, another top 10 performance from the wide receiver spot for
he's
him.
been nice.
I
Real
I
nice.
almost wonder if Zach Wilson isn't his problem, because that's kind of about when
Right?
this happened. You know what I mean? I
Uh,
don't think that that's the case, but that would be my main concern is A, can he keep it up, and B, what happens, because Zach Wilson's coming back.
I would imagine so. Yeah, I think so. I looked it up, and thanks to the good folks over here at Fantasy Data, you can look up live fantasy stats, and I looked up the last 5 games. No, 4. Is it 4 or 5? What did I write here in the notes?
5.
5. So the last 5 games played, Elijah Moore is a top 5 fantasy receiver.
It's
Number
crazy.
5 in
On
half
a
PPR.
terrible offense
Right? I mean,
with 3 different quarterbacks.
I
three
know.
three different bad
This
quarterbacks.
guy, I mean, obviously is, everybody loves his talent coming in. It was just like, landing spot. Who knows? But yeah, he's a guy, like in my opinion, he's easily an automatic start in redraft leagues right now. I don't see it cooling down anytime soon. I mean, it seems actually it's more than 3 quarterbacks, right? It's 4 now. Josh Johnson, Mike White, Zach Wilson, and Joe Flacco.
If
Right?
Josh Johnson got some passes, then so be it. But
Yeah, it was the game that Mike White got hurt. They had to put in Josh Johnson.
apparently,
Quarterbacks.
Red
That's
Zone didn't care
totally
about that.
crazy. That was a couple weeks ago. And Austin Eckler just scored again, and I think that just bumped me into the win for my Scott Fish League. There we go.
All right. And next up, Eagles are on a nice little roll here.
Yes,
they took down the Saints 40-29. I mean, Hurts is doing great things fantasy-wise. Only 150 yards through the air, but 69 on the ground, and I do believe he had two touchdowns as well. Miles Sanders made a cameo this week. He went for 94 yards. And then without, Kamara in the lineup, Ingram, kind of fit the bill a little bit. I mean, he didn't, do what maybe you were hoping for. He didn't have a ceiling game by any stretch, but he definitely was serviceable with 88 yards on the ground and caught 6 balls as well. So, nice to see, Sanders get, involved there with the 16 carries. But, with that Eagles offense, it really does, start and end with Jalen Hurts. So I don't know that you're going to expect to get that from Sanders going forward, but being his value has changed so much, since the beginning of the year. I guess I'm kind of curious your thoughts on him after that game.
On
Miles
who
Sanders.
Hurts or Miles Sanders? Sorry,
Miles Sanders.
So I was very interested in this game, and I paid a lot of attention to it. I was kind of following along to see how involved Sanders was going to be, because that was obviously the big talk, early in the season, was Sanders just wasn't getting used, and like they weren't running the ball as much with him as you were hoping. They were using Gainwell a ton. It was just a weird offense, and now ever since he got hurt, this turned into a complete run dominant team, something they probably should have done a long ass time ago. And it's been working for them. And so it was okay, when Sanders comes back, are they going to stay run dominant, or are they going to go and revert back to the dumb offense they had before and just like forget to use Miles Sanders? And clearly that wasn't the case today. Now there was a lot of, Hurts at 18 rushes, Sanders had 16, I believe Howard had 10. And did anybody else get involved? I think there was somebody else that got involved too. Boston Scott got 6. 50 rushing attempts. It's totally insane. But yeah, it was great to see Sanders get involved that early and be efficient. 5.9 yards per carry. You want to see him more involved in the passing game, but Jalen Hurts only threw the ball 24 times. I don't think that's something that's what they want to do as well. They want to be like the Browns. They just want to run. And run with Jalen Hurts too, because it's working. So this is great. Sanders is going to be somebody who's going to probably fall back into the RB2 territory for me most weeks going forward.
So next up, man, we had your football team beating the Panthers 27-21. I was really interested to see how this was going to work out from the Panther side of things, with Cam coming back, and Cam wasn't too bad. 21-27. Normally that's not something I pay attention to, but with Cam, it was something I was really interested in. 189 yards, 2 touchdowns, toted the rock 10 times for 46 yards as well. And then, CMC, first game, I guess probably the healthiest he's been all year, maybe outside of week 1. Only 10 carries, but, very efficient to get the 59 yards. Of course, out of the backfield, catching the ball is kind of where he makes his difference. So 7 catches there for 60 yards and a touchdown. DJ Moore, kind of the one guy that I was most concerned about with Cam taking over. Not amazing, but 5 catches for 50 and a touchdown. So that was good. And
Way better than he had been doing. So
we'll
take it.
So that was interesting. And then, your football team there, Gibson had 19 carries. Whatever, man. 19 carries for 95. That's nice. McLaurin, one of the most underrated receivers in football. 5 catches for over 100 yards and a touchdown there.
Beast, man.
I see your note, and I disagree with your note a little bit here. I think that you're pretty concerned about CMC's ceiling because, Cam in the picture and Cam running the ball so much. But I don't think that it actually takes away from CMC because I see him getting a lot more of those dump offs. And, yes, he only got 10 carries this week, but it's kind of the whole package that you're getting with CMC. You're not going to get 25 carries.
Right.
So.
It was more the question. And, I think it is something to pay attention to. I'm not overly concerned. You would like to see Cam run a little less. But,
if you're a CMC owner, it's the goal line that concerns me. It's right. It's not outside of the 20s. It's inside, the 20 that's where I start to get really worried about.
Which is where Cam likes to go. So
that's where they like to go.
That is concerning. Still McCaffrey, maybe his ceiling isn't quite as high as it once was with Cam there because he's going to get maybe less goal line work, and he probably will lose some carries. Probably like 2 or 3, 4 max carries. But, you still like the 7 receptions. That's good. And that pass, that little seam route that he ran like right down the middle in the fourth quarter and caught that touchdown pass. That was pretty.
That was a nice
good
ball
by
too.
Cam. Good ball by Cam for sure.
Yeah.
And obviously you're not thrilled with DJ Moore's line, 5 for 50, but man, that is much better than what we've had in previous weeks. So anybody who drafted DJ Moore is glad to see that. The other thing I think is interesting is just on the Washington side is Antonio Gibson's usage. The last couple of weeks has been pretty large for somebody dealing with a stress fracture in his shin. I am shocked to see 24 and 19 carries on back-to-back weeks. And he's been pretty good. And 2 touchdowns last week salvaged a pretty mediocre running attack for him, but still 24 carries. And then today with 95, very efficient. So maybe he's starting to feel a little better from it. I don't know what's going on.
Well, I mean, you'll take it, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's just so hard to trust though, because like at any given moment, you just imagine that's gonna flare back up.
Yeah, could, man, could. So last of the early games here, we had 49ers taking care of the Jags 30-10. Kind of a disappointing day for Jeff Wilson, owners. He pretty much was going to have that backfield today. He got 19 carries, only 50 yards, so that's not what you were looking for at all. As a matter of fact, best running back on that team right now is apparently Deebo Samuel. They, with all these injuries, they've kind of found a unique and clever way to get the ball into Deebo's hands more often, and that's been running the ball, and he has been absolutely phenomenal.
He's been awesome at it. Dude, it's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, basically 10 yards a carry, so 79 yards on 8 carries, got a beautiful touchdown. And IU kind of stepped in and did the work through the air with, 7 for 85, and Kittle caught a touchdown pass as well. The Jags were pretty ugly, not really much to speak about there. But I guess the main thing to discuss, because obviously last week was not an aberration, we're starting to see Deebo utilized in that running game, quite often. Yeah. And I guess real quick, my thoughts are, it's injuries to the backfield forcing him to do so. But with how effective he's been, what do you think about how this could look if things get healthy in that backfield?
Look, last week Elijah Mitchell was there the whole game, and they still ran the ball 5 times with Deebo for a 7.2 yard per clip average and a touchdown to boot.
Yeah, that was Jeff Wilson's first game back, though. So I at the time I attributed it to they weren't ready to fully integrate him yet, and they were just kind of getting Deebo a little work.
But they were they were riding Mitchell in weeks before. I don't know. Look, for somebody who has Deebo in a couple leagues, I'm happy to see it. I still want him more involved in the passing game than 2 targets. I think that's. That's where he's going to do more of his damage. But this is a nice little sprinkle, nice little change of pace, something else that defenses are going to have to pay attention to on that offense.
Yeah, exactly.
And it gives him like mismatches galore, man. Could you imagine him like running a route out of the backfield and getting covered by a linebacker? He would torch them.
Yeah, that was one of Justin Jefferson's touchdowns this week. And I don't know why teams don't do a little bit more of that, because obviously they identify who's in the backfield, but yeah, that's a matchup nightmare, because either you stay in basically your base defense, and they're going to do that against a linebacker, which is an obvious mismatch, or they're going to really have to maneuver things around and get that defensive back in an unfamiliar position,
right?
And they
get him in the middle of the field where it's crowded.
Yep, and they get a clean run off the line because they're not lined up. We can't press them in that situation. So a little surprising we don't see a little bit more of that. But obviously the Niners are figuring something out.
Deebo's a big guy too. He's a big physical receiver. So like he can make that, being a kind of a Swiss Army knife running back, type of style work for him. It's fun to watch, man. All right, well, let's cover these last 3 games here, the late afternoon games. Start with the Bengals and the Raiders, and offense all around, man. On the Bengals side, Burrow did, not great, but this spread the ball around all over the place. Jamar Chase got his touchdown, but not the greatest of games for him, yardage wise. Mixon was the story of this game for the Bengals offense, and it's 30 rushes, 123 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Joe Mixon just keeps getting it done, man. Just the doubters, he's proven all the doubters wrong, and I'm one of them, because I wanted nothing to do with him this year. He's been banged up in years past. He hasn't been been great even when on the field. So but he's proven everybody wrong. On the Raiders side, it's not pretty, man. Seems to be going in the wrong direction. Carr, 19 for 27, 215 yards, a touch, and a pick. He also lost a fumble, so it's not a good day for him. Josh Jacobs, nothing really working here in the run game, 9 for 37. Waller, 7 for 116 off 8 targets. So, you're happy there if you have Waller. You would love to get in the end zone any day now, man. And then Renfro 4 for 30, not great either. I mean, after a pretty hot start where Carr was at, he's been averaging over 300 yards a game early on this season. He might still be, but just barely, because he's had a few like really monster games. But I mean, is it finally just like the fire's been put out for this team, and we're gonna have to give up on this passing attack as something we could possibly rely on outside of maybe Darren Waller?
Yeah, even Darren Waller is too hit or miss for me. But yeah, I mean that offense obviously started off on fire, and it's probably no coincidence that all the turmoil that they've had off the field, I think, has really kind of made its way on the field, and
Right.
You're definitely seeing that now. It doesn't help that you know obviously there's the coaching staff stuff and whatever, but you know maybe Henry Ruggs was more important in this offense than we thought, even though his numbers weren't really saying so. But I feel like he really opened some things up on the field, and just with
100%.
everything going on right there, just is gonna again, if you have Derek Carr as your starting quarterback in a season long, you may just be stuck. If you've got Darren Waller, you're obviously playing him. But when it comes to like DFS kind of stuff, I just don't really have a lot of interest unless, I still do love a little Hunter Renfro. He's usually pretty safe,
Yeah.
but he's not going to blow anything up for you. So yeah, I'm pretty much off of the Raiders. And I really have been all year. I didn't buy too much into what they were doing early on, but it was getting hard to ignore there for a little while.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm right back off it.
Yeah, he is averaging just over 300 yards a game. It's like 304.1 right now. So,
Well, that'll keep coming down.
yeah, seems like it. So, he still leads the league in passing yards. So,
Not for long.
yeah. Anyway, next game up, a game that I think a lot of people thought was going to be much more high scoring. Cowboys 9, Chiefs 19. Dak, not so great today. 28 for 43, 216, 2 picks. I think he lost a fumble as well. Zeke, 9 carries, 32 yards, 6 catches for 36 yards. He got banged up kind of early, like got tackled out of bounds and like kind of rolled his like leg and knee. So that might have had a part in him not really performing as well. Pollard came in, played fairly well, 7 carries, 50 yards, 2 catches for 20. Gallup was the only receiver of notable interest here, 5 for 44. Albeit, they were obviously without Cooper, and they lost Lamb to a concussion in the first half, and he never came back, obviously. So that offense was down quite a few players, very important players there. So much different offense. It's hard to really take a lot away from the struggles that they had today, in my opinion. The Chiefs, though, 23 for 37, 260 and a pick for Mahomes, so not great. CEH did score, 12 for 63. Hill, 9 for 77. Kelsey, 5 for 74, and 1 rushing touchdown. So, I mean, look, Jeff and I have been talking about this all year, and it's been all over what everybody's talking about, right? Is like this Chiefs offense just looks and feels different. And yeah, the Cowboys defense is much improved from last season, but they're not this good. I mean, to hold the Chiefs to 19 points, I feel like that's not really all on the Cowboys, stepping up today. There's still something wrong with this Chiefs offense, and I can't put my finger on it. And like, just what do you do with these guys going forward? I mean, Mahomes has still been okay fantasy-wise most weeks, although the last few not so hot. Let's say let's just go last 5 games for him. He's at, where's he at here for last 5 games? I should probably just look for him because I can't find him on here. He's 19th quarterback with 75 points, so not great. Although I don't know if this might. Does this include the bye? Do they have a bye week mixed in with the last 5 weeks? Or this is the last 5 games, so regardless, it's not 5 weeks. So this is just 5 games. That's still not good. So you're not, he's been the number. We were talking about how bad Allen has been. Allen's been far better. He's been at least QB5. Hill and Kelsey, very high priced players in DFS and redraft. Like, I think you're stuck starting them, obviously, if you have them in redraft. But I mean, are you targeting these guys in like DFS moving
Well,
forward?
so yes and no. I mean, I think that any slate that has the Chiefs on it, these guys in particular are always in play. But one thing I want to point out I can't remember. Man, I'm gonna sit there and say something really smart, but I'm gonna sound really dumb doing it. Um, so long story short, one thing that has kind of proven to be true over like the last decade or so is we've had a small sample size, but enough that you can come to a reasonable conclusion on it. Where we've had roughly a dozen games where we've had an over under, and I don't know the exact number, now off the top of my head, but an over under, we'll say, north of 55, where the spread has been, you know, 3 to 5 points. And it's something in the neighborhood of, in this game included, something in the neighborhood of about 70% of those games hit the under. So when you've got these high over under games that don't have a big spread, they tend to do this, and this is what happened earlier in the season too, when we had a similar situation that the game was a dud. So that's kind of my takeaway from this, is that
Yeah.
this is another example of one of those games where everyone is playing all the guys from these games because they're all great plays, and for the most part it's a great matchup, but it tends to not pan out. So
Yeah.
it's something to keep in mind, because for the next time we get one of these.
You're not going to get a lot of the Ravens Chiefs game from last season when it was like 100 points total scored. Like, that was just crazy.
Yeah.
I do have a question here. And it says, I'm down 6.36 with Najee Harris and Austin Eckler left in half PPR. He has the Bucs defense left. Do I win?
Yes,
I'm gonna say yes.
To win.
Although the Bucs could easily put up like 15, they get a touch off of Jones. I could see it happening, but
you still might be getting 20 from Najee and Eckler for.
I'm gonna say this last quarter is gonna be good for you. So
yeah, I think so.
So yeah, I think you are the favorite to win there.
Yeah.
Last game here of the slate, Cardinals and Steelers. Cardinals win 23, Seahawks 13. Colt McCoy had to start again today. Did very, very well again. 35 for 44, 328 and 2 touchdowns. Connor, 21 for 62 and a touchdown. Zach Ertz, 8 for 88 and 2 touchdowns. And then Moore here had Rondale Moore, 11 for 51, like crazy targets. There was some stat like a couple weeks ago where he had like an ADOT of like a yard and a half or some crazy thing like that. It probably is very similar today. They just kept throwing screens to him.
Yeah, I think his ADOT was like 4 yards less than the next closest player, which is a lot when it's like the difference between like 1 and 5. So yeah, all the balls I saw from him today were within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage.
Yeah. It's really crazy. Yeah, it's totally nuts, man. Yeah, I'm trying to look it up here. Yeah, so his
ADOT's got to be like 1.5 or less, right?
Well, so this is just air yards per reception is 4.9 right now. So that's including today. So that's not actually ADOT, but I think it's close. Oh, his well, no, that's fantasy points per target. Anyway, yeah, it's still low. Anyway, on the Steelers side, Russ Wilson still looks like he's trying to figure things out with that hand, not looking like himself. 14 for 26, 207. Alex Collins, 10 for 36. Lockett, 4 for 115. DK, not great, 4 for 31. I mean, it's hard to really evaluate the Cardinals, right? They had no Hopkins. They had excuse me. They had no Kyler. They didn't have Chase either, Chase Edmonds. So I mean, this offense is going to look really different come week 12. I think they have
Yeah, they have a
after
bye
week 12.
coming
They
up.
have the bye next week. So then, week 13, they're going to look very different. It sounds
Yeah.
like everybody's going to be back. I don't know about Chase Edmonds, but I think everybody else is supposed to be back. Um, on the Seahawks side, though, this is where I'm more interested in talking about here. So we obviously know Carson is out, and I think we can all pretty much agree that this offense looks really different when Chris Carson is there. Like, not that he's like the engine that makes it go, but he is the integral part of like taking a little bit of attention off of this passing game and Russ Wilson and obviously that combined with the fact that Russell Wilson came back early from this finger injury and he isn't making the throws that we're used to him making. What do you think about them moving forward? Like, you downgrading this offense? Or do you think
Absolutely.
they'll bounce back?
No, I don't. I think that you're watching the last year of Russ in Seattle, and I think that this is going to be kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. Pete Carroll's probably going to be gone as well. I think you're going to see an entirely different Seahawks come next year. But for the rest of this year, as great as Metcalf is, as great as Lockett is, like you said, without that real strong threat, to run the ball, this team is you're just seeing bad Russ.
Yeah.
His hand has obviously got to play some role in this, but until I see 2 or 3 games in a row where they look good, I'm just gonna stay right away from it. Right?
Yeah, I actually traded for DK in a redraft league like 2 weeks ago.
Whoops.
I needed a third receiver. I had like 5 running backs who were all pretty decent. I mean, actually, I think it's still going to work out because I traded Patterson and Julio, who then both got hurt. So,
Yeah.
like, it's really working out now, even though I only got like 4.5 points from DK. But I think there'll be better days ahead for him. Hopefully, Russ will not be total garbage going forward, and that the finger will heal more and more as they play, and they'll just figure things out. But yeah, it's not what I was hoping. I think that ceiling is definitely lowered for them. So
Yeah.
all right, man. That's it. I think we are looking at of course, when I look at the TV, they're showing a graphic and not the score. Here we go. Chargers 27, Steelers 10. So yeah, I think it's pretty much looking like the Chargers going to take this one. So we'll see what happens here in the second half, or in the fourth quarter here that we're coming up on. So with that being said, man, it's a good show. Good talking to you, and let's do it again sometime.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right, man. Peace.